Hello, peeps out there. This is the Schnitzel Show with your host, Wolf Schnitzel. Today's interview is with the one and only Lena Drapella, who is originally from Poland but now resides in
At the moment, I'm in Wales, North Wales.
Wales. What's the weather like and how are the sheep?
Well, I can see some sheep from my window, so they're pretty good. Weather is surprisingly good, actually. It's been sunny for the past 2 or 3 weeks. I've only moved here like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've been warned and expected heavy rain, and it's just been wonderful for the whole time. So I'm loving it so far.
Soak it up as long as you can because the next winter is coming. So
Hopefully, I'll be in Spain by then, but we'll see about that.
it's really interesting because Lena is the first kind of female photographer on the IFSC tour, the International Federation of Sport Climbing. And Lena, how did you get the job?
How did I get a job? I did a little bit of photography in the past, in various competitions, which I either just ended up going because I wanted to take photos for myself, or I've been invited to as a photographer. But IFSC has always been, the cherry on top and something that I aspired to do. And maybe 2 years ago, I have just sent loads of emails to different IFSC to the organization and different events, asking whether it would be okay if I came along to shoot. I have heard a few replies, but not many, until this year, where the officials from the IFSC have emailed me saying, "Hey, we would like you on your team." And well, I said yes, of course.
Oh, perfect. So it's like the general kind of rule of thumb. You just annoy the shit out of people, and then sooner or later they recognize you.
Pretty much, yeah. Seems to be working so far, so I guess I'm just gonna continue with that.
No, but listen up. I mean, I've looked at some of your work, and it's really good, astonishing work, and I really like the way you kind of portray landscape as well within the climbing. You know, like you seem to have a good feeling for generating and actually capturing like space. You know, within different fields. So
Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to think I really do like landscape photography, but I feel like climbing just brings another level to the photograph where you can see the scale of the landscape and the climber, and maybe even see her or his emotions. It kind of brings you a bit closer to the photograph, which is what I like about it most, I guess.
yeah, that's an interesting subject. I mean, how do you? I mean, there's some stuff on YouTube already out in regards to outdoor photography and climbing photography, and you kind of also like did some stuff. But you know, it seems to be like for me, anyways, a really hard thing as well to capturing emotions because you know sometimes people don't show them that much or that quickly. I mean, how do you go around with that?
I feel like climbing is a pretty emotional sport, especially if you photograph someone at the top of their game and they're doing something that's particularly hard for them. What I love about climbing is that it's really hard to hide it. It's not so much of a posing sport where you can, just, I don't know, lift a kettlebell and, put a face on. When you're at the cracks of your route, no matter if you've done it before or not, it will still be hard. And you don't think, which way should I look at, or how does my face look like? You just think about doing the move. So it's actually really hard to fake, I would say. And that's maybe one of the things I like about it. So the emotions just come through no matter whether you ask the climber to show it or not. It just happens.
And with the climbing photography, I mean, was this something where you just clicked and you just went, oh, okay, well, this is it now. I love to be outside. I love the kind of sport. I got interest in it, and yeah. How did it start?
It started about the same time as my climbing. So it must have been maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, where a friend of mine has introduced me to climbing, and I just thought it's the coolest thing in the world. And I thought I just have to document it and I need to take photos of it. And that love for both climbing and photography has kind of, you know, gone from there simultaneously, I would say.
Continuing on that kind of area of exploration, you continue to start now something else, meaning like joining sound and film together. You did just a short documentary just like a few months ago, did you?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, maybe even. Yeah, so photography is definitely my main field of um, artistic outlet. But film is something that I have been drawn to for a while now, and I haven't really had much experience with it before. I have done a little bit of, short adverts here and there with beautiful shots and music on top, but that's not really a film. That's just, beautiful, well, like moving images. It's not really a story into it. So I kind of wanted to try something else. Um, and yeah, I have decided to film my first short documentary, and it was hard. It was a lot harder than I would have expected, possibly because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I haven't been working with anyone else, or I haven't assisted any other filmmakers in the past. So it was kind of just, trial and error. I think mainly it started as an experiment. I kind of wanted to see whether filmmaking is something that I'm into, and whether it brings me, joy, or something that, I find myself liking or wanting to do more. And see
Mm.
whether I'm even capable of doing something that people can watch and, not throw up at the end. So yeah, it was supposed to be just an experiment, and in the end, the subject that I chose for the doc was really close to my heart, and it probably was a bit more than just what I initially, started up on. But yeah, I would say close to my heart, and definitely a great experience, but a lot of hard work and many mistakes. So lots to learn for sure.
All right, what was the biggest fuck up?
Biggest fuck up. Oh my god, the interviews. I think that must have been the biggest fuck up. So that's something that I had no idea how to do. There's nothing in photography that relates to that. You can shoot a portrait, but an interview is just a whole other story. So at the time of filming, I had two cameras, which was quite useful to have different angles. But pretty much in every interview that I shot, there was either one camera was out of focus, or the voice didn't record, or it was too loud, or something's just gone wrong in pretty much everyone that I filmed. So yeah.
So within, I mean, the film's called, or the documentary is called Ripple Effect, and it's kind of like a protagonist, Gemma, who is kind of the person who is quite active within environmental activism, on a micro scale. And I mean, I watched it and I really liked it because it was kind of like you could observe that she has an impact within her community, within her friends, and all the people around her quite, picked up on the idea that, they wanted to kind of support her because, she's not going to stop anyway, so might as well just join. Like, and was that like, how did you get the contact? I mean, was that something you knew those people, you had friends who were talking about that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, so Gemma and the whole household, where the film has been shot, are really close friends of mine. And I have accidentally moved into their house over a few months, which wasn't particularly planned. It just kind of happened. I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks of quarantine after an abroad trip, and somehow ended up staying for a few months, which was really convenient during lockdown, have people to hang out with. But while I was there, I knew Gemma for years, but I didn't quite realize how much she does, and how she just devotes her whole life to just be better and make everything better. And that inspiration has, I don't know, made a big impact on me. And I thought maybe it can also do the same with other people. And maybe I can, put it into film somehow and spread the love.
I mean, just another thing. It's just really interesting because in Germany it's like against the law to go kind of container shopping. And what's legal status in the UK for that? Because when I watched this film, I was like, what is going on? Because there was a court case in Germany last year in summer, and two people got charged, you know, and they had to do social hours, you know, because they were doing the same thing.
So yeah, that was one of the reasons why it was a bit of a touchy subject with the film, because to my knowledge, I haven't done the research, but to my knowledge, it is illegal as well in the UK. It is trespassing, basically. I don't think it's like a big offense against the law, but it's not, you know, it's frowned upon, that's for sure.
Let's just quickly jump also to the subject of gender equality, because I mean, obviously, like, you are one of the very few female photographers for climbing. You know, I mean, I don't know a lot. You probably know a lot more, but I mean, it's quite a domain, especially like with climbing filmmaking. You know, there's just a lot of old men around, I suppose. You know, if that sounds, you know, a bit ageism, but you know, how does it feel to kind of like rock up at the scene as a female photographer?
I haven't. Yeah, it's true. There isn't that much of a representation of female photographers out there. Maybe percentage-wise, I think it was only the other day that I found a statistic talking about commercial photographers. It wasn't obviously specific to climbing, but to commercial outdoor photographers in general. And the statistic, I don't want to misquote it, but I think it was like such a low percentage of it that were women, maybe like 4%, and then 96 men or something along that. I mean, maybe I should fact check it because I can't remember exactly what was it, but like ridiculously low. And that made me think that it is also the case within climbing. And, you know, it's hard to pinpoint why that is the case, but maybe there are ways to change it. And I am actually working at the moment on one of those ways to change it. I think their representation is a big part. When I was starting out, I haven't really known of many female climbing photographers, in comparison to many men who are incredible artists, and you know I have heard of multiple times, but not that many women. I think maybe after 2 years, I have found one woman who was a commercial photographer within outdoor industry, and I have just like saw her work and I was like, oh my god, so it's possible. You can do that. You can be female and you can, you know, earn money from your passion, which is climbing or outdoor photography. So I think one of the ways to change that would be to show the representation of female photographers. And one of the ways that I'm working on right now, I'm actually in the process of writing an article about 5 female climbing photographers, which I'm interviewing, who are incredible artists. And hopefully the article will be out in a few weeks or a month, maybe, depending on when I write it. But yeah, I'm going to interview 5 other female commercial photographers in the climbing world and talk about the same topic. So see how they started out and how they found it, and whether they found any gender inequality with it, or whether there are other reasons for why there aren't that many women in that industry yet. And maybe ask them about what would be their advice to other women wanting to start out. Because I do actually get quite a lot of questions from other women with how I got into it and whether I work with assistants or whether they could assist me or something. So maybe there is a pathway that we can work out with the other professionals to see how to change that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question, you know. I mean, because that's like, you know, if you can't imagine yourself, you know, paying for bread and butter, it's kind of like really hard to feel like that you can actually make it, you know. And I think within a male dominated kind of world, you know, like, it's really hard if you ask yourself those questions, because, you know, then there's maybe self-doubt, or there's the question of like, oh, do I really can I really sustain myself, you know, with that? So
Yeah, but I guess, you know, male photographers would have the same question in their head, because no matter your gender, it is difficult to sustain yourself from photography in general and climbing photography in particular, because it's, you know, even harder. So I think that particular aspect, you know, is important for men and women. So I'm not entirely sure why is that the case, that there is less women, but you know, climbing in general, not even just climbing photography, but climbing in general is still very male dominated, but less so than it was 20 years ago. So maybe it will be the same with photography. Who knows? But yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think, arts in general are super hard to kind of get into because, it's not a full-time job. It's not a 9 to 5 job. And it's like you always have to go freelance in general, unless you kind of
Yeah.
work for an online shop, taking pictures of kind of like, I don't know, chalk bags. But it's like, yeah, it's tricky. I know it doesn't sound pleasing, does it?
No, no, not quite. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll get to see more women, and in, you know, a few weeks' time, hopefully I'll have more of a collective view from other female photographers about what will be the best ways to get into it in the first place and sustain yourself secondly. And yeah, maybe they'll have some other thoughts on why there is less women and how we can change it.
What are the next few weeks in Wales gonna give you? I mean, lockdown is kind of sort of over, isn't it? The UK is gonna.
Ish, yeah. So, I mean, at the moment, we can enjoy our partial freedom, which is incredible, and we
What's
can meet
partial
up
freedom
to.
like? What does it feel like?
It feels better than no freedom, but not quite good as full freedom. Yeah, we can see up to 6 people outdoors, I believe, but we can travel across Wales, so we can go to different climbing locations that are slightly further from our home, which is great. Still unsure about travel abroad, which makes my job a little bit difficult because most of my
Mm.
planned work is abroad. So we'll see how that's gonna go ahead. But yeah, I think next few weeks they're great, sunny, and weather looks good. So I'll probably go climbing lots and work a
Great!
lot.
Like, can't wait to get out and play.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of climbing, lots of working, probably not so much sleep as per usual. But yeah, making the most of it.
Perfect. Well, enjoy the weather. Stop counting sheeps if you see them because there's plenty of them in Wales. And I don't know. Thank you so much, Lena, for the talk, and I wish you all the best, eh?
Thanks. Yeah, lovely chatting to you too.